What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are backstage at the PlayStation Theater. That's Corpaclani killing it right now, and we are here with Gone in April. Thank you all so much for being here today.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Thank
everyone.
you. Hi.
It's awesome to have you here. You guys just played an awesome show tonight. First thing is always first, Shards of Light is your newest record. Do you just want to talk about how the making of this record was going? I know that you told me that you had like a time limit or you had to like sort of hurry it up before you got on tour with Elevate, right?
Yeah. So we knew this tour was coming, and this record somehow took, I don't know, proportions that were a little bigger than we thought. And we were thinking, let's bring that guest and this guest, and then let's add orchestrations here and there. And we ended up like cutting it very close. So we released the CD, the album, on September 6th, if I remember well, right?
Yep.
That's correct.
So right before we left for the tour, so our first show for the right before leaving for the tour was on the 12th or 14th.
The first date was on the 19th, but yeah, we left around the 17th. Something
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
So
Just in time.
just in time.
Do you try to, with every record you make, maintain a certain sound, or do you like to do something different with every album?
Yeah, I think every album is kind of treated differently. We have an idea of what we'd like to do with it, and it's not like we come out with an album every year, so there's growth over a period of several years. So we grow as musicians and as producers as well. So we never try to recreate the same sound. We say, all right, this album, we'd like to do something a little bit like this and a little bit like that, and we just go in that direction. We don't go out try to create something different, and we don't go out trying to create something that's the same. We just create what comes out, and just what comes naturally to us. So we don't force anything. It's just what comes out at that point in time.
Interesting. When it comes to playing your material live, because I thought your live performance was just phenomenal, do you try to execute the material exactly how people are hearing it on the album, or do you like to maybe change things up a little bit to make the live presence a little different?
Well, I think it's different for each of us, but for me as a classical musician, I will say I'm used to performing things the way they're written. Of course, like I'll change a note here or there, when I'm singing, but most of the time what you hear live is what you hear on the album. Maybe a little bit more oomph on the live version with all the energy of jumping around and everything, but it stays pretty much the same on the violin and the voice, other than a few notes.
Yeah, for the drums, I like to change things up a little bit. The beats are typically about the same, the majority of the time, maybe 95% the same, but the fills are always different. The energy kind of goes with the take. I can record the same song 10 times and the feel will be different every time. So the fills are different. I think the guys for the solos, typically they'll keep some the same and some improvise a little bit. So it's kind of different for everyone. I think the bass is typically pretty much the same, but the drums and some solos are a little bit different. Yeah.
Interesting. As a drummer, do you need to like hear other music before you have the beat laid down, or does the rest of the band like write over the drum beat?
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting question, because for Shards of Light, and also that was the case, I think, for some songs on Threads of Existence also. So Julie will start writing, melodies, and, when she's in the car driving, around in, near our home. And so she'll have some ideas of melodies and kind of piece those together and put a song structure. And there's some gaps and some holes here, here and there sometimes. And I'll put drums that go with that, and sometimes I start the song structure just with drums. For example, the song Power to Heal that is on Shards of Light, that song was done from the beginning to end with drums only, and that was sent to the guitars for him to write the guitars. So Simon wrote guitars for that song with the help of Marcel. And so that was all done with drums only, and then the guitars were added afterwards, and then, violin and
voice,
bass
yeah.
and lyrics and stuff like that. So yeah, every song's a little bit different in the way that it's kind of put together and composed.
But I would say for Shards of Light, it was mostly starting with violins and vocal melodies and then adding the rest.
Yeah. And you mentioned you have a classical background, just like Tarja. And what I find unique is, do you think you approach heavy metal a little bit differently having a classical background than somebody who just got into metal,
I think it's a little bit like the symphonic metal aspect, like that for me, I approach it in a very classical way in the sense of orchestrations and choirs. So I would say for this part, I approach it differently. But I think there's so much that is similar between classical and heavy metal. I mean, you shred on both, you know.
Yeah. They say classical music was heavy metal music before electricity.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I mean, if you take some Beethoven at his time, it was kind of crazy for the crowd, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think Frédéric Chopin. I mean, his classical music. He was the typo negative of classical music. His music was
like
so
that,
depressing, but I loved it. Is it a different approach having a classical voice training and classical violin, or is there a similarity between it?
You mean
Like
in terms?
the way you approach it, in terms of the theory behind it. And
Oh, okay. So for me, what helps is that I can. So I'm gonna record basically, like Yanic was saying. I don't know why, but mostly when I'm driving, that's when I get more inspiration.
not the worst
especially
thing you could do while driving.
I guess. So mostly when I go from one city to another, because I play in a symphony that's about 2 hours from home. So then I have to drive there. So I have all the time in the world to just think of this of little snippets of melodies. I record them and then I write them down, the notes. So I guess maybe that's where it's a bit different. So I like to have everything written in music sheets. So for myself, and then from them. From the music sheets. Then when I write the choruses, the choirs, then I can really use harmony like I learned at school. So
Okay.
that helps a lot.
Okay. So you have both kind of like an insider and outsider sort of experience with combining.
Yeah.
into your art.
So I don't necessarily like start everything like super, theoretically, but I do use it a lot.
Okay. Excellent. Being a band from Montreal, we were talking earlier, Beyond Creation's coming here tomorrow. And, I'm curious. I heard Montreal has a phenomenal metal scene. I think the Agonist is from Montreal. Threat Signals, I think, from a territory just slightly over. So is there like a metal scene that you're both very active in in Montreal? Or are you interested in maybe going outside your hometown?
Well, Montreal, I've lived there the majority of my life, and Julie has as well. So we were involved very much till this day in the Montreal metal scene. There's a lot of great talent there. I've played in other bands in Montreal as well, and so has Julie. The camaraderie, the support from the different bands is really awesome in Montreal. We all know each other super well. There's a great support system. A lot of bands play with each other and kind of tour with each other. So it's really, it's really an honor to be part of it. Yeah.
That's awesome. You ready for the most difficult question of the interview? This is my favorite question to ask everybody. I want you both to elaborate too. How do you know when a song is done?
You mean composing? Or okay.
When we're out of time.
Fair enough. All right, you next. Yeah.
Okay. For me, it's that's a very, very hard question, actually.
Cue the Jeopardy music.
Yeah.
Actually, I think when we work on material, when it gets up to the point, like when we start mixing, if we hear something that is missing, then we will rework and say, hey, there's something that's missing there. Maybe we should add a little something, and we rework. And then when we hear the finished material, that doesn't happen that often because we do a lot of pre-production. So we kind of record the album twice, like a lot of bands, right? We just do a quick recording once with kind of low quality, just to kind of hear how the whole song is going to come together. And then once we have the whole song figured out, and we say, okay, this is the song structure, and we're happy with it, then we go and do the official recording with high quality, and then we do the editing and mixing. But really, even in the mixing, which is a process which is one of the last processes of album production, if we hear something that's missing, we will rework it. So in a way, we're never done until mixing and mastering is done, until we say, yep, this is it. There's nothing missing. We feel like this song is complete. So we don't say that until the end where the CD is ready to go to pressing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That was actually beautiful. Can you top that?
Well, I was just going to say, usually that's how we work the songs, and we add at the end, I add all the strings and all the choirs, and then that's usually when we really hear how it's going to sound. It kind of makes a huge difference, because if I just record like like the beginning of Empire of Lost, the first song of the album of Shards of Light, Yanic heard it and had no idea how it would sound in the end, because it was like deep at the seat of thoughts, and just that rhythm, you know, and hearing maybe one violin. And then if you add all the choirs and you add all the strings, he was like, oh.
That's awesome.
So I think for us, that's the moment when we hear everything coming together. We're like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, when we did mixing for Shards of Light, like Julie was saying, she was saying, hey, I'd like to put choirs here, and I'd like to put, you know, cello, violin, viola, all that. I mean, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. And then we start mixing, and all these pieces finally come together in the mixing session. And, you know, often that's when I hear it for the first time, just because we have pretty aggressive schedules. You know, when we do album production, we set ourselves a goal, and we really work very hard to meet that deadline. And sometimes we don't have the chance to hear everything that, you know, other people are doing in its completeness, right? So we hear the idea, like, for example, if Julie's working on a choir part, I might hear one or two of the voices, but then once you have all of the voices in the entire choir, the impact is just night and day difference from, you know, the pre-production aspect. So yeah, we tend to do a lot of that. Yeah.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's a great show tonight. Again, excellent job. Is there just anything else you would like to promote now that Shards of Light is out? Could we be expecting to see you on the road a little bit more this year?
Well, we just finished that 1-month tour with Helveti and Korpiklani, and it's been absolutely phenomenal. So we are actually looking ahead and at our schedules and booking the next months. So you will hear more of us. This album, as you just said, is new and ready to fly. So
Awesome.
so we want to play it as much as possible.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Maybe one thing that I can add is we have a video coming out soon for another song on the album. So typically what we've liked to do, especially what we've done with Shards of Light, is when we're doing the album production, we like to do video production as well. So we record a few videos, and until now we've only released 2 out of 3. So there's still one left to release, and it's, do we say which song it is for?
This video's going to be uploaded by midnight.
And by midnight, okay, so then we won't say the song right yet, but it'll be a very interesting. Yes, it'll be. It's a very cool environment. When we work on videos, we like to think of cool locations that are breathtaking and that are very creative and inspiring. So this one's going to be different as well, and will be a very cool video, and we look forward to releasing that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And actually, the song was written. The lyrics to the song were written after we filmed the video. Not after, but after we figured out the place where we were going to film the video. So the lyrics are very tied to the locations. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I look forward to seeing that. Thank you all so much. Everybody, we are here with Gone in April, Shards of Light. Pick that up if you haven't already. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.